So you have a project, you tell people about the project, but then you have to tell them how it's going to get paid for. And we'll go back to our wolves because mine's more snarky than theirs was. And theirs, mine for the wolves could be a surcharge on the sale of meat. Right? We could raise the sales tax on meat to pay for the wolves in Yellowstone. Right? That is a legitimate payment method. It complicates your life immensely because the vegetarians are suddenly voting for it because they hate meat, and everybody else finds themselves neutral. So that's not a good choice. You want something much more neutral than that. An income tax surcharge would be a lot more neutral than that. But again, you've got problems. People at the bottom of the income distribution pay no income tax. And so making them pay more income tax is something times nothing, which is nothing, and that doesn't work perfectly. So it's not so easy to find a payment method that really strikes everyone reasonably evenly. And the last one I don't even want to think about. Richard and Michael thought the big problem was who pays. They thought if we said we're going to do all this and you, Mr. Consumer, are going to pay for it, then Madam Consumer was going to say, like, hell, why should I be paying for Exxon dumping oil in the Bay? They ought to be paying for it. And you're going to have a big protest and the rest of your study falls. But you can't do that. But you can't say Exxon's going to pay for it all because then how in the world do you find out what you're willing to pay if you're not the one paying? So faced with that dilemma, they chose a payment plan that split it between what the person was going to pay in increased taxes if they voted yes and what Exxon and the other oil companies were going to pay. So that it looked like both sides were going to pay. If you really thought about it, it's not very fair. It's not the polluter pays principle, right? Polluter pays principle is the guys who are shipping the oil ought to pay. It'll end up in the price of oil, and that's the way it ought to be. And the rest of us will not pay. But then you don't have to study. So you got to get a payment method. And your payment method now has to be believable and has to impose some of the payment on the people you're interviewing. Next, you go into reasons for and against. You remind the subject there are good reasons to vote for or against the project. This project would make it much more likely that Prince William Sound would stay pristine. But when you vote for the project, that means you'll not be able to spend that money in this other worthwhile environmental endeavor. Right? And you have to manage to do this without conveying that you really favor one alternative or the other. So you can never use us as the interviewers in this. You would just absolutely fail. If you use me, I'm the guy who wrote it up, and now I have an interest in my study, and I know how I want it to come out. And so when I say, you could use money to clean up Prince William Sound, or you could use it to buy some other habitat in Alaska, you can imagine what kind of results you'll get. Same problem would be if I took a bunch of environmentalists and threw them in there. Right? Because if the alternative was keep Prince William Sound clean or buy a new toaster, you would all sound the same way I just sounded. We could keep the environment pristine and clean with this alternative, but you do have the alternative of buying a new toaster. Right? So you actually have to find interviewers who are totally neutral and don't care at all about your project. That's not so easy. As soon as they care, you're done for, because now you're reading back out what they do. So that's quite an art by itself. Finally, you get around to topping the question. And as you know, there's two easy ways to think about it. One is open-ended. And you know the problem with open-ended. With open-ended, at least in theory, people might give protest votes, 0 or infinity kind of votes. And then what do you do with that? Do you just exclude them because they're obviously illogical, or do you really believe what they say? The alternative is what I did to you, which is a referendum, right? Would you vote for a surcharge on your income tax of $100 to support the wolf identification program so that Yellowstone can be a wolf haven? Right? That would be my referendum question. And randomly, I would ask people different amounts. So you would ask 100, over here I'd ask 50, over there I'd ask 25, and so on. And now I have percentage yes by the amount asked. So if I split the class in 4, and I ask a quarter of you $25, and say, of that quarter of you, 75% said yes. I then have my quantity is 75% yes. My price is $25. Then I move up the back corner there. I ask them $50, and I don't get 75% yes anymore. I get 50% yes. Finally, I get all the way over here and ask $100, and there's only 1 out of 20, and only 5% will say yes at $100. And I've just given you my demand curve. I've given you quantity, which here is percent in favor, as a function of price, the unknown price I asked. So by varying this thing, I can trace out my demand curve. That's how referendum works. You'll discover that your homework is now doable, and it has 2 questions on it. And one of the questions goes along these lines, and you need to follow instructions carefully, and you'll get to the end of it. It's almost self-contained. You almost don't need to know anything other than follow the instructions to get to the end of it. Then at the end, you debrief them. You ask them about things like education, income, family status, etc. So if I were doing wolves in Yellowstone, I write down she's female, and I don't know what her income is now. Is her income between 0 and 100,000? Yes. Blah 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 blah. Then I go over here, write down he's male, and whatever his answer is, and I keep doing that. And now I could find out how income and gender influence the outcome. And you'd really wonder about your outcome if you found that wolves were an inferior good, right? That would be strange. And it'd also be strange if you're talking about furry creatures, if you found that men significantly loved furry creatures more than women. You'd wonder, what had you done in your survey to get an answer like that? So after you do your debriefing, you go back to your common sense and say, all right, so let's look at what I got. Does that basically make some sense, or am I getting some really strange things here? In this kind of research, you always find strange things. That's not fun, but you do. And then you get to go back and try to figure out why. So the last piece of this could be harder than the previous pieces. It would be much harder. Let's just talk about the income one, for instance. Why would I want to know that number? Let's suppose I did this study, and I found that saving wolves was increased rapidly in income. So your willingness to pay to save wolves went up very quickly as your income goes up, more than proportional. Why would that be an interesting finding? Any ideas? What would happen to the world if that were true, and if that were true for pollution? So what would the world look like? Your willingness to pay goes up rapidly for environmental goods in general, for argument's sake, as income goes up. What does the world look like in 10 years' time? Looks cleaner, doesn't it? Okay, so suppose you had that finding in China, where income grows at 10% a year, or India, where income grows at 10% a year. What do you think happens? Well, there's a lot of pressure to make it better, right? Yeah, I mean, it may not get better for all kinds of reasons, but gets better is the right answer. So if you look at China today and you see all of this endless discussion about air pollution and stuff, perhaps what you're reading out is people's willingness to pay for clean air. That's one side of it. The other side, if you're looking at how dirty the air is, so one side is I'm willing to pay more for clean air. It's a normal good. But the other side is if you have no industrial activity, how clean is the air? So if you have no cars and no industrial activity, will the air be clean? Yeah. So people have, well, how do you make it dirty? What are you going to do? I mean, there's only so much you can do with cooking fires. So you have two things that are fighting each other. One thing is as you get richer, this kind of study is going to tell you people want it cleaner. Demand for environmental quality is going up. On the other hand, their supply of gunk is going up. And if you plot it, it looks like somewhere around $5,000 a capita, you reach maximum gunk, and then it starts coming down. It's very fragile. If you change your definitions a little bit, it could fall apart on you very quickly. And we call that the environmental Kuznets curve, but I'm not much into it as a quiz bit. So you do your debrief, you can learn a little more about the problem. We've talked about lies, right? The reason why the referendum is good is there's no incentive to lie in the referendum. If you're really willing to pay $60, and I ask, would you pay $40? All you can say is yes. There's no further way to influence me. More deeply, you think you could lie. You could say, okay, so I'm really only willing to pay $40, and I want them to do the project because I think the project will actually cost less than $40, and they're lying to me when they say the project will cost $60. Now you're back into the same kind of thing, where people are thinking strategically. That's why you want to convince them of a real project with real numbers behind it. These are cutters with Norwegian booms. Norway already does it. This is what it really costs. So you want to really wed them to the idea that you know the cost and what you're being asked is true. At the same time, you have to be lying to them. Well, no, you don't. You're asking them, would you be willing to pay $50, not telling them it costs $50. So in some sense, you're not literally lying. If you then say, the project would cost so and so much, would you be willing to pay $1,000 when that's too much? Then you're getting back in the problem. People will not say, yeah, I'm willing to pay $1,000 even though it costs $50. They'll say, that's unfair. Why should I have to pay $1,000 when it really only costs $50? And they won't give you your true willingness to pay. So it's always got problems. I don't think I want to do this right now because I think it needs a fair bit of, what's going to happen next is I'm going to show you how you analyze yes-no data. And that's going to take a fair bit of attention on your part. And at 3:20, you don't have any attention. And so if I believe that we could cover the material, meaning I put my hands over it and declare you to know it, then we could do that. But I don't think we should do that. I think you'd be better off going home and starting fresh. And then we'll finish all of this next time relatively quickly. And it's time for you to look at your problem set, because if you look at it and it's confusing, there's still office hours between now and then, which will not be true the night before.